How you doing, number one? What have I heard that number before? Oh, I remember. It's the skull and bones, but that just must be a coincidence. Anyway, the rocket blasted off, and it was the same concrete slab that launched every Apollo mission to the moon half a century earlier. 4 people were inside, and according to NASA, they are the first humans to leave Earth's orbit since 1972. The capsule's called Integrity, and the spacecraft around it is called Orion. And the program that built all of it, the rocket, the spacecraft, the mission itself, the multi-billion-dollar plan to put humans back on the moon, well, it's called Artemis. You know that. And according to NASA, they specifically chose that name Artemis for the moon mission because it's Apollo's, the god Apollo, by the way, his twin sister. And the name fit. And here's where it gets crazy, guys, because in 2019, in the press release, they said, well, they described the goddess that they named the flagship Artemis program after, using a phrase that I haven't been able to stop thinking about.
Wow.
They called her the torch bringer. Okay, the torch. On the solid fuel technology that traces its lineage back to Jack Parsons and his chemistry. This man, Jack Parsons, the occultist, his chemistry is physically inside of this rocket, inside of most of the rockets that NASA launches. And he chanted Aleister Crowley's hymn to Pan before every single rocket test. Think about what this means. Think about the implications of this. That the very foundation of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, the very foundation of the space mission itself is based on occultism, what some people might call Satanism. Now let's talk about Aleister Crowley real quick. The man that the British press deemed the most wicked man in the entire world. Parsons became the head of Aleister Crowley's California Lab. Seriously. And by the way, he gave most of his salary to Aleister Crowley's organization. And then in 1947, a man named L. Ron Hubbard spent 3 days conducting what would be called the Babylon working ritual in the desert with Jack Parsons himself. Now, the Babylon working ritual is it's a satanic ritual. They call it sex magic, and it's basically a ritual to summon an entity from the book of Revelation. Crowley himself thought that this ritual went too far, and Parsons swore an oath declaring himself, in his own words, mind you, basically the Dajjal, the Antichrist, all right? And Jack Parsons, he died in a mysterious explosion in 1952. He blew himself up. And by the way, Jack Parsons has a crater on the dark side of the moon named after him. If you think that's strange, you're going to think it's even stranger that JPL, NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, was effectively founded on Halloween night. And Halloween night is the highest satanic holiday, and proof of this can be found in this US government document released by the Department of Justice called Satanic Cult Awareness. So the second founding father of JPL, of NASA, was none other than Werner von Braun himself. Born in Germany in 1912, he was a Nazi. And this Nazi was brought to America and given a position of power in the United States government through Operation Paperclip. If you look at Werner von Braun's history, it's horrifying. It's horrifying that he was able to commit these war atrocities in World War II. He was able to do these terrible things to people, and then he was brought over and given this position of power. This is horrifying. So what did von Braun do? Well, he designed the Saturn V rocket, the machine that actually carried people to the moon. Well, if you believe the moon landing. Anyway, so after arriving to America, von Braun, on the surface anyway, he supposedly converted to Christianity. Now, whether or not this is true or if it was some sort of PR stunt, who knows? But according to the records, he was a Christian. And his favorite verse was Psalm 19, that the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows his handiwork. So he liked this verse so much that he put it on his gravestone. Now, you can speculate as to why he put this on his gravestone, or why that's his favorite verse, but I think the connections are a lot more, let's just say, strange than they're made out to be. So here you have two men, the same decade, one chanting satanic hymns from Aleister Crowley's rituals, and the other one was supposedly praying to Jesus. And the program that these men created, and mind you, they didn't work together, but both of their work were instrumental in creating what we now know as the NASA space program. Their work is what made the Artemis II mission possible in the first place. So here's where the investigation starts, because things are about to get strange. So in 2019, NASA needed a new name for its lunar program, and they chose Artemis. So a man named Jim Bridenstine, who was the administrator of the time at NASA, he explained it simply. He said that Apollo's twin sister, Artemis, the first woman to the moon, the goddess is female. It fits, right? The spacecraft that carries the crew inside the Artemis program itself is called Orion, the name for the constellation. In Greek mythology, Orion is the hunting companion of Artemis. And the thing is that every version of that myth, in every version, there's a problem. There's a problem with how the story ends. And we'll get there too, because we're going to get to the ancient record and it's going to make everything a lot more clear. Because once you get past the surface level, it's like, wow, I can't believe this is actually true. It can't be a coincidence, even though some people might say it is. But the way I see it, there's no way that this is an actual coincidence. It can't be. So before we get to the ancient record, though, I want to show you something. I want to show you something pretty interesting, because in 1960, a NASA engineer named Abe Silverman, he proposed the name for the agency's moon program. He chose Apollo, the Greek sun god, the twin brother of Artemis. And when people asked why a Greek god, Silverstein's answer, you want to know what it was? He said this, he said that Apollo riding his chariot across the sun was appropriate for the grand scale of this moon mission that they were planning. So they chose an ancient god to be the face of the first moon, Apollo. So that decision, it's not something that happened in a vacuum. It actually set the precedent, because the next one, Mercury, the guide who leads the souls to the underworld. And then you have Gemini, the divine twins. You have one mortal and one divine twin. And like we said, Apollo, the sun god, riding towards the heavens. And then for nearly 50 years, things started to change a little bit. You had Skylab, you had the space shuttle missions, you had the International Space Station. No mythological names at all. The mythology seemed to vanish from NASA's programs altogether. So here we are now, and NASA decided to go back to the moon. The mythology here with Artemis, it came back with it. And the names they chose, they don't just reference random Greek gods. No, it actually tracks with this overarching story with the actual relationships inside the mythology itself. Artemis is Apollo's twin. The spacecraft, Orion, the hunter, is connected to Artemis as well. I mean, you can spend hours mapping these like on a whiteboard or something, because the connections just keep coming. The precision, it kind of started to bother me, because these aren't random. These aren't random selections from a book of myths. They're connected, they're intentional, and somebody has been doing their homework. I mean, they're choosing names that fit a mythological architecture so sophisticated and so specific that no PR department in the world would have a reason to maintain this unless there's a specific reason behind it. And here's the timeline, people. November 2022, NASA launched the Artemis 1. It was an uncrewed test flight. There was no humans on board, just some mannequins, I think. And then the Orion capsule flew around the moon for I think it was 25 days or something like that, and then came back. The engineers found a cracked heat shield, and it was pretty splintered up and pretty bad. worse than their models predicted. So they spent 3 years trying to figure out what went wrong and fixing it. On April 1st, 2026, they tried it again, and this time there was 4 people inside. And this is what we're talking about now, right? Artemis 2, and it's a 10-day flight around the moon. And they won't land on the moon, right? That will come later. I think it's for 2028. But they're basically going to swing around the far side of the moon. They're going to lose contact with Earth entirely and supposedly travel farther away from this planet than any human has ever gone before, according to NASA, if you believe that official story. Now, if you believe the official stories of the moon landings, you have, I think it's July 20th, 1969, Apollo 11, 2 men land on the moon. One of them is Buzz Aldrin. And history itself sees Buzz Aldrin as like the second person ever to walk on the lunar surface. But here's the thing about Buzz Aldrin. Most people don't realize what he brought with him. This is a fact. It's a fact that he brought this item with him. Even if you don't believe the moon landing, this is still part of the history. So Buzz Aldrin was a 33rd degree Freemason. He carried a special document from the Grand Master, a document that granted him authority to claim Masonic territorial jurisdiction of the moon. Seriously, he carried a handmade silk flag that was embroidered with the words Supreme Council 33, Southern Jurisdiction, USA. He brought that to the moon. He was claiming the moon for Freemasonry, for the god of the Freemasons. Okay, after the Eagle landed, he stepped outside and Aldrin performed a ritual. And guys, NASA kept it quiet for decades. The Grand Lodge, however, the Grand Lodge of Texas, it later chartered the Tranquility Lodge number 2000, a Masonic lodge with jurisdiction on the moon. And the overall manager of the Apollo program, the man responsible for every single mission from Mercury through Apollo, well, yeah, that man's a Freemason. Not only is he a Freemason, he's a 33rd degree Freemason. So here you have 2 33rd degree Freemasons who are intimately involved in the moon landing, and they claimed it for the god of the Freemasons. It was a ritual. And guys, this is all documented. It's documented by the Freemasons themselves and their own publication. They admit it, and they don't try to hide it. They're actually proud of it, and I think it deserves to be taken seriously. Like I said, whether or not you believe the moon landing actually happened, the fact that they're claiming that they brought this 33rd degree Mason and did this ritual, this Masonic ritual on the moon, tells you everything you need to know about it. As you have to understand that most NASA employees, they're engineers, they're physicists, they're not mystics, they're not psychics, they're not Satanists. But the ones in charge, well, apparently they were at one point, and according to some, they still are today. So I looked hard, and I didn't find any evidence. There was no documents, there was no whistleblower, there was no smoking gun. That doesn't mean the story goes cold, because here's what I did. The names track. They more than track. They track through the mythological relationships with precision that's really hard to explain by like just random happenstance, all right? There's a specific word in ancient record that really proves everything. It was a title given to this specific goddess by her own priests, documented in ancient texts that have been sitting in libraries for more than, 2,000 years? Nobody at NASA has ever addressed this. Nobody at NASA has ever explained this coincidence, right? And this coincidence is a word that when you translate it, it changes this investigation from dealing with pagan goddesses to dealing with Satan himself, with Lucifer, with the whole Luciferian doctrine. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let's start with what most people think they know, right? You have Artemis, the goddess of the moon. It's Apollo's twin sister. There's a silver bow, there's a deer at her side. That's the version that you'll get from a 2-minute Wikipedia search. And it's not wrong, really. It's just not finished. That's not the whole story. Because in order to understand the whole story of who Artemis really is, you have to go back farther and you have to look at the bigger picture. Because this surface level Artemis isn't the full picture of who Artemis is. In the ancient world, Artemis was 1/3 of a triad. Think about that. A triad. It was 3 goddesses who were worshipped together. And these 3 goddesses are identified as 3 faces, 3 different faces behind the same power. It's basically a perversion of the Trinity. It's a perversion of God, Christ, and the Holy Spirit. But these 3 goddesses are considered to be one. So you have Artemis, who is the maiden, Earth, the hunt, virginity. Then you have Selene, the mother, heaven, the moon itself. And then here's the one that makes a lot more sense. Here's the one that brings it all together. The third one is Hecate.
Queen of darkness, revenge yourself against the Thessalians.
The goddess Hecate has spoken. Hecate, Queen of Darkness, you've always helped me.
Artemis, Selene, Hecate. Who's Hecate? Hecate is the crone, the underworld, the crossroads itself. Hecate, historically, throughout the entire history of our civilization, was known as the goddess of witchcraft, sorcery, necromancy, communication with the dead. And a 5th century BCE, there was a sculptor from Athens who carved the very first known triple-formed Hecate statue. 3 women back to back, looking in 3 different directions at one time. That image stuck. And the Romans, well, guess what? They worshipped all 3, Diana, Luna, and Trivia. And they combined all 3 into one singular entity. And guess what? Modern witchcraft, modern Wicca, they worship this exact triad, this exact triple goddess. This is the central framework to the religion of witchcraft. You have the maiden, the mother, and the crone, all right? And this is the exact symbolism that is on our Artemis 2 mission. And here's the thing, guys. When you invoke one face, the ancient world understood that you're invoking all 3 of them. The 3rd face is the queen of the witches. And if you're still here after that, you're going to be ready for what comes next, because Artemis carried torches. In the ancient world, this wasn't decorative, this was liturgical, all right? The symbolism of Artemis carrying a torch really brings this whole thing home, and it solidifies just how creepy this whole Artemis 2 mission really is. So, there's a thing called the Orphic hymns. They're basically ancient Greek ritual prayers. Some of the oldest texts that survive call Artemis the torchbearer. There's this ancient Greek 2nd century historian named Pausanias, and he recorded her Roman title. You're never going to believe what it is. Diana Luciferia. Wait, what?
Could it be Lucifer? Lucifer is an angel, a fallen angel.
Artemis, her official name was Phosphoros, the name her actual priest used in rituals, documented by multiple sources, independent of each other. This is a piece of linguistics that really does change everything about this investigation, and it changes everything about the Artemis moon mission itself. So here's the thing that brings this whole thing together. The Greek word for Phosphoros, remember, Phosphoros is her Roman name. A Latin word for Phosphoros means Lucifer, the light bringer. Guys, this is the exact same thing. The light bringer, Lucifer, Phosphoros, Hecate, Artemis, it's all the same name. This is not interpretation, guys. It's translation. And it's been confirmed through ancient texts, right? The star called Venus in Greek is Phosphoros. In Latin, it's called Lucifer. Artemis is called Phosphoros. Phosphoros is Lucifer. It's not metaphorically, okay? It's linguistically. This is the same word, just said a different way. And NASA in 2019, their own press release described this goddess that they named the program after. They called her the Torchbringer. Literally, they said it. They used the exact title, the Torchbringer, the Lightbringer, Lucifer.
Dude, this is crazy. Can't be a coincidence, right?
Now let me show you what they named the spacecraft, because in every single version of the surviving ancient Greek myths, Artemis killed Orion. Different versions, different reasons, same ending. She killed him. And she placed his body among the stars. Okay? Does this symbolism, does it make sense what I'm getting at here? Because Artemis killed Orion and placed the body among the stars. Now, I'm not saying that something's going to happen. What I'm saying is the symbolism here is unmistakable, and you can't argue it. It's either coincidence or it's not. I think this whole thing lines up way too specifically to be coincidence. What do you think? And remember, NASA named the crew spacecraft inside the Artemis program Orion. The humans ride inside of the body of the hunter that was killed by the goddess Artemis, carried to the heavens by a program bearing her exact name. And also in Egyptian cosmology, the constellation Orion wasn't just a hunter, it was the Lord of the dead, the god of the afterlife and resurrection. The Egyptians believed that the souls of the pharaohs traveled to Orion's belt to unite with Osiris in eternity. And some researchers argue that the Great Pyramids of Giza themselves align with those specific stars. So guys, bottom line here, I've looked at the ancient Greek sources. I've read the scholarly analysis of this. I've looked at what the ancient Christians carved into the temple of Artemis in ancient Ephesus. And the most complete explanation that I can come up with why every single name in this program, this Artemis program, points to the same exact place that are sitting in these ancient manuscripts that were written thousands of years before NASA even existed. I think that the ancient texts, they describe exactly what we're seeing. It's a spiritual architecture that's behind the names of these programs. And these are the same entities that the nations worship. And the name of the program itself, Artemis, well, like I said before, it's Phosphoros. That's what the ancient Romans called it. So this is Luciferian in its very nature. And linguistically, there's no denying that fact, right? So I'm just looking at the names of these gods and these goddesses and trying to piece together what's going on here. And, I mean, maybe it's all a big coincidence, I'm not sure. All I know is that there is no mistaking the linguistic accuracy of these specific names that have been named and that are being used. So Bottom line, guys, is who knows? Who knows what's going on? What do you think? Put it in the comments below. If you got something out of this video, please share it, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. And I want to thank you guys for watching this video. We'll see you next time. God bless you.
Oh man. See what we got here? All right. Oh. That came from The Truth Above All, Tim Truth. And of course, oh man, I don't even know the name of who he presented. Oh, my bad for that. See what else we got here. Notifications. We got that guy, that y'all can't see it. It is. Oh, no matter.
Hello, everybody. This is Paul from Walker Desert Farming News with Paul and Adrian.
Haven't heard this guy in a while.
April 4th, 2026. Welcome to our emergency alert.
April
We've got a lot
4th.
to talk about.
Today's
If
the
this is your
5th,
first
isn't it?
time here to our channel, please make sure that you subscribe.
Pretty sure
so you
this
won't
is
miss
the
any of our
5th.
breaking news. This
So,
is an emergency alert. We have news that Donald Trump was rushed
oh,
to Walter Reed
wow.
Medical Center about
Wow.
3 or 4 hours ago. Now, there's different rumors swelling that he has had a stroke. We even have people saying now from the foreign news agency that Trump has passed away. We're going to try to break it all down. But listen, the Supreme Court just ruled that Donald Trump would not be immune from prosecution in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Okay, so there's a lot of moving parts going on. We're going to discuss the pilot search in Iran for the down F-15 pilot. Folks, we're living in a crazy world right now, okay? The whole world is being turned upside down. Usually, Donald Trump gets on an airplane and flies down to Florida, Mar-a-Lago, and plays golf all weekend long, okay? Usually on Friday night, he boards Air Force One, and he arrives in Mar-a-Lago a few hours later, and he plays golf on the weekend, all right? He's done that pretty much every weekend for the last year and a half. He doesn't stay in Washington, D.C. So for him not to go to Florida and for the White House to cancel all of his meetings and all of his speeches, that means either he is dead, he is sick, he has a stroke, some kind of medical emergency. There was rumors going around that the Mossad was going to kill him. Israel, I don't know, folks. We're all going to find out, okay? But let's go ahead and get to and show you some of the information coming in. Let me get this on the screen. So, why did that do that? All right, hold on. We are live, so crazy things happen when you are live. Let me I'm trying to get our Twitter feed.
This
up
is all
our
on
screen
Odyssey.
right now so you can see it.